Moving closer to appointing someone new to the post of Precinct 2 Constable.
Today, county commissioners are announcing the names of the 5 finalists who will be interviewed tomorrow.
Eyewitness News reporter Mariah Medina talked to county commissioners who share how they're moving forward.
County commissioners,
so we have to continue on our own timeline,
moving forward as scheduled in their search for a new constable. That's after a judge issued a temporary restraining order yesterday that will allow commissioners to interview and select their appointee as planned tomorrow, but will prevent them from swearing the appointee in until after a hearing is held on October 11th. The move not coming as a shock to Commissioner Kevin Wolf.
Obviously, this individual is going to fight tooth and nail. However, that doesn't stop us from going through the process of selecting a future constable.
Of nearly 30 candidates, the field has been narrowed down to 5. Precinct 2 Commissioner Justin Rodriguez giving some insight into what he's looking for in an appointee.
someone that can provide some stable, mature leadership to that office.
Adding that while many qualified candidates have applied,
You can see so much on paper with resumes, but we like to see in person how they interview, how they come across.
Precinct 4 Commissioner Tommy Calvert calling on commissioners to review any available internal affairs files for candidates as part of the screening process, but ultimately yielding to the Precinct 2 Commissioner's plan on how that will run.
We'll do what we can to make sure we get all those records.
Candidates will be called in for interviews tomorrow at 9 a.m., which will be open to the public and streamed online. Mariah Medina, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.